Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Second Breakfast podcast. I'm Andy Roth, alongside Phil Duvall. Say hi, Phil.
Hello.
And
Hey.
it is Friday,
Yes.
which means it is time for another mailbag.
Mailbag.
Mailbag brought to us by you, the viewers, because
It's true.
you send in the questions
Yes.
that we answer. And I gotta be honest, Phil, we have some gems. We
It's true.
have so many gems in our inbox, that inbox being Second Breakfast Podcast, all spelled out one word, at gmail.com, that we couldn't do them all one day. I don't even know if we can do
Andy?
them all. Yes.
What was that? What was that email address again?
Second Breakfast Podcast at gmail.com.
Fantastic. So easy.
Right?
I know.
Right? Indeed.
This is the first time in history where we have so many questions we actually have to choose.
Yes.
And it's a sign of things to come. What else
Yes.
can I say?
Yes.
So if your question didn't get picked this week, don't worry.
Fear
worry.
not. You merely got lost in the shuffle of us going viral.
It's just part of what's happening, people.
It's just part of what's happening.
You're right ahead of the wave. You're about to catch it, people. Hey,
Right.
Andy, I got a question for you.
What's that?
What you reading?
Oh, back here?
Yeah, I can see your book. What is it?
It's the new Harlan Coben book.
I don't know what that means.
Neither do I. My mom's like, I have to get you. Oh, by the way, everybody, I'm home for a few days. And my mom's like, I have to get you the new. No. But he's like, I have to get you the new Harlan Coben book. And I was like, great. Okay.
Clearly.
So she requested it from the library, and I am going to read it. And when I am done, she will read it, and then she will return it.
Nice.
And it's certainly a page turner. I know it's not great literature, but it's a fun read, and it is called 6 Years. 6 years.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. It's a tantalizing title because it could
Indeed.
go anywhere.
Indeed. Actually,
And you know how long it is. Like,
that's right. That's right.
what's the time frame for this book? 6 years.
Unlike, say, The Never-Ending Story.
But
It's actually, you might like it because it's similar, or hate it, I guess, because we talked recently about twist movies, movies that try and trick you, and I don't know what the twist is, but basically this guy is kind of living the game. Like, he's trying to find someone who he knows should be in a certain place, and not only is she not there, but people are like, I don't know anyone by that name, and I don't know anyone by your name. Like, it's like, yeah, so...
Okay. I'm not that. I mean, I'm interested. I'm gonna confess I don't read as much as I should lately.
Nor I.
Pretty much since grad school, when I was only reading what they told me I had to read.
Honestly,
And then,
law school
and
did
then,
that to me too.
as soon as that was over, like, it was like, oh, that's over. Here's a child. And I'm just like, whoa, woo. So yeah,
For me, it was law school, read, and then as soon as that was over, it was like, not law school. So I was like, awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
No, I think that's legit.
Yeah.
That's legit. It's hard
Yeah.
to equate reading with relaxation or fun.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I will again. Like, I don't doubt that. I read a lot growing up.
Yes.
But, like, when I think about, like, when people will ask us questions every once in a while about books, like, what book do you want turned into a movie or whatever? And I'm like, something from 10 years ago, the last time I read a book. Like,
Exactly. If it's not
Because-
from like
because-
25 or under, if I didn't read it when I was 25 or younger, I'm not
Right.
gonna know it.
Because like a 13 volume a 13 volume series on dogmatic theology is not going to be turned into a movie anytime soon. You just fell asleep while I was saying it. That's not going to be a good. So yeah. Anyways,
Yeah. Here's one for the law nerds out there watching our podcast. I'm very excited for the treatment for the movie version of Palsgraf v. Long Island Railroad. I'm working on. Yeah, Palsgraf.
it's got a great title.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And Andy,
What's that?
I don't have a piece of paper to rumple, but mailbag. Let's
All right, I'm
mailbag
asking the
it.
questions, and
Nice. If people are listening, they'll think that was real paper.
Totally. Spoiler, it wasn't. Okay. Our first mailbag question from repeat contributor Ladarius. Hello, Ladarius.
Nice. Hey, Ladarius. Way to come back. Obviously, we answered his first question well.
Indeed. Indeed. Or we answered it really terribly, and he's like, try again, jerks.
Try again,
Yeah.
fools. All right.
Favorite movie theater franchises, i.e., Regal or AMC. Okay, so like theater chains, and why?
Well, this is easy for me to start, and it's kind of a cheat because they didn't used to be a chain, but there's a movie theater called ArcLight in LA, and there's now 3 of them, which makes it a chain.
Nice.
And they were the first movie theater chain, I believe, in America, but definitely in LA, which I'm guessing means America when it comes to movie theaters, that had all digital screens.
Nice.
They were the first one that had leather seats, reserved seats. And they might not be leather; they might be vinyl or whatever. But I mean, like nice seats that are
Right.
reserved, and they have like reserved seating, and like basically someone comes and introduces the movie, and if you're talking, if you're texting, they'll just kick you out.
Yes.
All that stuff, all that
Yeah.
stuff,
Yes.
and it's a beautiful way to see a movie, and it's
Yes.
their popcorn has real butter. I know you don't put butter on your popcorn, but we'll talk about
No,
that some
no,
other
no,
time.
it's cool. I might if it were real butter,
See, there you go.
right? I'm not
So there-
mummifying my insides, right?
That's the obvious choice. I think AMC is adorable because they have all the huge, ginormous pictures of people when you walk in, and some of them are incredibly iconic, and then some of them are like, it's like Martin Brest directing "Son of a Woman." You're like, okay,
Right.
or it'll be like,
Humphrey Bogart,
and you're like,
next
you'd be like,
to Giovanni Ribisi.
right.
Great.
It'll be like Spike Lee, and you're like Spike Lee, and it's like directing Mo Better Blues, and you're like,
Nope.
Malcolm X, do the right thing.
Nope.
Okay, Mo Better Blues, why not? So stuff like that is really, really funny to me. It's like it's kind of charming, like, but not like unintentionally so. But they still
Agreed.
have the idea that when you walk into a movie theater, there should be a 20-foot poster of Will Smith holding
something, yes.
like an alien
Yes.
gun
Yes.
right next to Humphrey Bogart, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, I like
Nice.
that's charming. But anyway, yeah.
Can I say something about the ArcLight? I think
Yeah.
you know this. I have seen a movie at the ArcLight. I saw The Dark Knight opening night, and I was in LA for your wedding.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
Um,
awesome.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Reserved seats, because we got great seats, and we showed up like 10 minutes before showtime. It was fantastic. Actually, we showed up earlier than that because the actual theater was a mob scene because it was the opening night
Right.
of The Dark Knight. But you
But-
know what I mean. My answer to this, well, first off, my favorite theaters, and I know this is going to sound like cheesy, the answer is none, because I love independent movie theaters, and it's not because of like the art house movies that they show, although I do enjoy those movies. It's because, with the exception of things like those posters at AMC, big chains feel so corporate, and there is something so organic for me, so organic and innate about the process of going to a movie, that I want it to be funky and cool and like it feel like a fun thing to do.
Sure.
And so, you've got the places where you can drink beer, and like the places where, like, I was in a theater and I was the only person seeing a particular showing of a movie, so they held the movie for me because I was chatting with the guy who took my ticket. Right?
That's
He's like,
cool.
oh, don't worry about it. We'll hold it. You're the only one. I was like, awesome. Stuff like that. They're more likely to do movie festivals and show old movies. But if I have to choose a chain, well, first, here's the other reason that my main answer is kind of none. I thought I really liked Regal, and I do like Regal.
They're
it's
good.
great.
They're a good chain.
Because they were the theater, the biggest good theater near me right now in North Carolina. And then about a month and a half ago, they were bought out by AMC, and literally nothing changed except the name of the rewards program. like
Wait a minute.
and the
Are you
neon on the front.
are you sure Regal was bought out by AMC?
I don't know if Regal was, but that theater was.
Okay, because we still have Regal. Regal is a larger brand, and one of the
Hmm.
ones underneath them is Edwards Theaters, and we have a bunch of
Yes.
Edwards Theaters in
Yes.
Southern California. And
Edwards is nice. I like it.
yeah, well, Edwards is owned by Regal, and most of the movie theaters I go to are Edwards.
Yeah.
And it is nice. I like your answer. It's artsy and cute, but my problem, growing up in Orange County, California,
Hmm.
is that, and then moving to New Hampshire, which also had chains, is that
Sure.
even the indie movie houses were owned by a larger chain. So Edwards has it's like, and I'm not sure it was always like that,
Right.
but
Right.
Edwards has like 4 or 5 art house movies that maybe didn't used to be, but they bought them, but they kept them that way. There's one right in there's right in the University UCI, which is University of California Irvine.
Hmm.
Inside, like on their campus, there's like it's the Edwards University, and they've always show the art house flicks because they're on a college campus
Sure.
and stuff like that. And there's a couple of other ones but they're still owned by larger things. But I know what you mean. I know whenever I've mentioned this before on another podcast, but I've been a couple times when I've been in the city, when I've been in the Big Apple, New York City, the city of New York, which is also in the state of New York.
I hear
That
it's so
there's a
nice
place-
that they named it twice.
I've heard that, but then I went there and did not agree. But there's a movie theater in the village, I think, called Angelica with a K.
Yes. Yes.
And I've been there a couple times, and
Yeah.
and like I liked it. I thought it was a really
Yeah.
cool
Me too.
But mostly it's just like, look what I'm doing. The thing is, I love going to a movie. I want to go see also big brash cinema, and there's something fun about seeing that on a ginormous,
Agreed.
crazy screen.
Agreed.
So
Agreed. There is honorable mention only because I feel like it would be absolutely my answer if I'd ever actually been to one of these theaters, but I haven't. The Alamo Drafthouse, which
Yes.
I believe just opened up in LA, but as the name implies, originated in Texas. And they were the first theater that I knew of that sort of made their hay by saying, if you talk or text, we will kick you out.
right,
In addition to that, it's a draft house, so obviously they have adult beverages, which I'm not going to get an adult beverage probably, but it's nice. It's fun, right? It makes it
the
more of an
idea
event,
that you
right?
could creates a sense of danger and mystique.
Indeed. They also apparently have like actually good food. Who knew? And they also do things like they will show a Buster Keaton movie, but instead of playing the score, they will have a live like 4-piece orchestra play it.
Right.
That is awesome to me. That is so cool. So it's like it's a chain that's getting bigger but is retaining like the ma and pa
Yep.
store feel of it.
Yep.
Also, they did a PSA for no talking or texting in the theater. YouTube search either Alamo Drafthouse and Magnited States of America.
Okay.
It is the voicemail left by a woman who was kicked out.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I've
And
heard
she
this.
is it is not safe for work. There is cursing and it is like
Yep.
crying. I'm crying. It's so funny. I just
It
this
makes
woman
you proud to be an American. It makes you proud to be an American.
America.
It really does, and few things
America.
do that anymore for me. But there's 2 other things I want to say.
Yeah.
Well, there's 3 things. One, this whole conversation is making me want Milk Duds.
Awesome. Love it.
I'm on a diet, and I'm not gonna lie. This conversation is just making. I went to the movie theater the other day and didn't get Milk Duds, and it was hard times at the old Edwards. I went to a movie theater. It's a company called Terrible. I forget what it's called, and it's probably better that way.
That's an awful name for a chain.
What was it called? What was it called? Because they do have a brand, and it's I'll remember it later and just be angry.
Nice.
They have sodas there.
Okay.
You get a large, and you're not allowed to refill it.
What?
Yeah, no refills, no free refills. Landmark Cinemas. Landmark Cinemas.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
And any movie theater chain that serves Pepsi, stop.
They
Just
serve Pepsi? Really?
not that one, but there are ones that do.
Oh,
and
okay.
No, that's just
Right.
stupid. That's just you're
Right.
just wasting everybody's time. Those are my favorites and my least favorites.
Fair. No, that's fair. Shall we adjourn to the second question? That doesn't
When you
really
come
work.
back out to LA, we're gonna go to ArcLight again, but we're also gonna go to the New Beverly,
Okay.
which is a cinema that's like Alamo Drafthouse. It's not a draft house; it's just a movie theater. But
Yeah.
they're famous for doing movie series of old movies, and they do double
Awesome.
features. The double feature is like $10.
Awesome.
I saw
I'm in.
like, and it's always really cool double features that are themed. And then those theme weeks, they did They Live and had Rowdy Roddy Piper there, and I didn't get to go to it,
Awesome.
but some of our friends went. But Quentin Tarantino bought the theater. And so he'll do his own. He bought it to make sure that he's like, and he said something like, as long as I am alive and as long as I am rich. He said that. As long as I am alive and as long as I am rich, there will be a movie theater. There will be a movie house in LA that shows 35 millimeter films.
Awesome. Love it. Love it.
So he bought it, and he does his own programming, and like Edgar Wright came and did a whole month of programming, and like so.
Cool.
We'll make sure next time you get out here, we're gonna do that.
That sounds great.
All right, good deal.
Question number 2. From first-time contributor to the podcast, Lenny.
Hello,
Full
Lenny.
disclosure.
Tell us more about Lenny, Andy.
Lenny is my father. Hi, Dad.
What's funny is when you say hi, Dad, you could like turn the camera slightly, and he could be like, "Hello," because he's like in the house.
It's true, although he doesn't sound anything like that.
Excuse me, all Jewish dads sound like that in my head. Hello.
You're right.
Okay.
He sounds exactly like
Actually,
that.
I've heard your dad, and he does not sound anything like
He's basically, my dad is Peter Falk, basically.
that. It's true.
Pardon me, sir, just one more thing.
Okay. Okay.
So, okay. As we record this, he's maybe 50 feet to my right and sleeping. So
And unconscious, but naturally so.
yeah, indeed. From my father. Why do we love movies like Animal House, The Breakfast Club, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Do we relive our high school and college days vicariously through these movies and wish we had actually experienced those movies? Or what is the compelling draw if it is not just to laugh?
I mean, first of all, the 3 movies you named, part of it is just because they're really good.
Can I literally read you the first note that I have? First off, and it sounds obvious, but it bears repeating, we love them because they're awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, he managed to name 3 amazing films. And I'm not a
Right.
huge Animal House fan, but it's a classic. But Ferris Bueller's Day Off, secondly, you just named 2 John Hughes teenage movies.
Exactly.
John Hughes lived... there's teen movies, and then there's John Hughes movies. Because
Yes.
John Hughes... other people were making movies that would be clever and have teenagers in them, but John Hughes just inherently, and you know what, and Lenny, go back to the beginning. Do you remember what the beginning of Breakfast Club is? Do you remember?
Is it they're getting dropped off, aren't they?
But go back before that. Now, this is like when I say the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, and people go the battle.
Oh, wait a minute. Isn't it Anthony Michael Hall at the breakfast table or something like that?
It's no. That's from now you're getting into deleted scenes and outtakes, my friend. It is a title card with a David Bowie quote, and it says, "These children that you spit on as they try to change their worlds, they're immune to your they're immune to your something. They're quite aware of what they're going through." And it's from, it doesn't rhyme, and that always confused me, but it's from the David Bowie song Changes. And these children that you spit on as they try to change their worlds, they are immune to your something. You're looking it up.
I am.
They're immune to your, now we're just 2 people looking something up on the internet,
It's
and there's
true.
someone screaming at the television.
These children that you spit on as they try to change their worlds are immune to your consultations.
Your consultation.
They're quite aware of
what they're going through. And that's the beginning of Breakfast Club. That sets the frame. And so for me, he's speaking generationally. And so I never had an experience that anything like resembled Breakfast Club or Ferris Bueller's Day Off in high school
Yeah.
or Animal House in college. But I felt I felt like I could relate to those characters, and I felt as if they were speaking for me, all of them in some way. And what he manages to do in Breakfast Club, which is really one of the Breakfast Club gets known as like a movie that our generation loves or as a cult film,
Right.
but it is actually a brilliant movie, like a movie that deserves.
Yes.
And what he does is he manages to actually get to the heart of what he doesn't. He says what kids. It's like he's able to speak for teenagers in a way that teenagers would never be able to speak for themselves because come on.
Because they're not making, well, for no other
They
reason,
might
they're not
be
making
aware
movies.
of what they're going through, but they might be aware of what they're going through, but they can't say it.
Right, and even if they could say it, Phil, it's like they can't do anything about it because they're not the ones making movies, right?
Right.
And so
You're right.
if you're trying to get that particular artistic expression out, how do you do it? And you would think, honestly, it would be impossible, except, I don't know, John Hughes kept a teenager shackled in his basement or something. I don't know. Like,
Right.
like just
The same reason, Lenny, that those of us who celebrate Christmas think that, like, watch A Christmas Story and go, like, that's what Christmas is meant to be, even though it, again, is not my Christmas at all, especially because I didn't grow up in the, whenever that was, I think the 40s or something, but
50s or 50s, I think. Sure.
either way,
Indeed.
it creates a sense of, they tap into what the themes, and to some degree define what the themes are meant to be.
Yeah.
Like they articulate what the themes of those places are, and then when it comes to stuff like Animal House specifically, they create a sense of what we hope college will be.
Yeah.
Even though people like me never actually wanted college to be like that, it still tapped into this idea of what like our mentality or what our hope was college would be. So I think vicarious is a good word, especially, but in not just like it does this even though we can't. It's almost like it does this so we don't have to.
I want
Does
to
that
talk
make
about that for a
sense?
second. I want
Does
to
that
talk
make
about that for a
sense?
second because it does make sense. And I think that ties into what you were saying about like the movie that I identify with what you've been saying most strongly is actually Superbad, which I think is a far better movie than it is currently thought of. I mean, like
You and I are of a piece on this.
yeah,
We agree.
it's
completely.
currently thought of. Oh, that was a really funny movie, and now we're forgetting it. But I think 15 years from now, people are gonna be like, "Wow, that was amazing."
Yeah.
And as I walked out of that movie, it didn't even like make sense fully, but what popped into my head was when I was that age, I didn't talk that way, but I talked that way, right? And
Yeah.
so I knew that I was not going to experience Animal House in college, if only because, there is a timeless quality to it, but there really isn't, right? I mean,
There's also the fact that you and I were not where we were the nice guys. Like we weren't going to fit into any of the. Even if we've postured ourselves in different ways, we were
That's
never going to
true.
live in that house.
that's true, but you got Tom Hulse. Like, you have the Tom Hulse character in
yeah,
in
but
Animal House.
yeah. Okay.
But so more than that, when I watched, and still when I watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off, obviously there is a part of me that wants to be Ferris Bueller, right? And maybe that's just because I want to make out with Mia Sarah. I mean, right?
That is reason enough, my friend.
Right. But I was always, I don't know, equally, but I was always also attracted to, as a concept, the character of Cameron. And it's because he's the one that grows. He's the one that experiences the catharsis, right? And while I never, interestingly, this question is coming from my father, I never wanted to kick my dad's car into a ravine. There is that sense of, like, there has to be a journey that the character goes through, and often in these movies, The Breakfast Club being a notable exception, where everyone goes through a journey, but Bluto does not go through a journey in Animal House, right?
No.
Right?
Right.
So when I say the Tom Hulce character is there, what I mean by that is he's the Luke Skywalker, right? Han Solo doesn't really change. He doesn't really change, right?
Hmm.
Luke Skywalker changes a lot.
Yeah.
And so I don't even know if I'm making sense anymore, but these are the things that I think of when I watch those movies. Like, what do I want to be? What experiences do I want to have, whether or not they're happening in high school, in college?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. I think it makes sense, and I think, like, again, it creates a narrative for us in which we can play out in our heads a scenario and then not actually have to live it or not
Yeah.
have had lived it.
Yes.
And I'm just realizing as you were saying all that, you made me realize something, Andy, which was that I never thought of this before, but you were saying, like, there's something about being Cameron. I would never in a million years have thought that, except now that we're talking about it, Ferris Bueller is a completely unrealistic character.
Yeah.
Cameron is not an unrealistic
At
character
all. Zero.
at all.
Yes.
And that's a really fascinating idea because it creates a situation where we may never get to be Ferris, but we can hang out with Ferris, and Ferris could show us a good time, and
That's
maybe
right.
we could find someone who would show us a different way.
Right.
Maybe Ferris is a Christ figure. I'm just kidding. We're not going to go there today. But I will tell you that The Breakfast Club was an incredibly important movie for me because I saw it for the first time when I was 14. I was a
Yes.
freshman in high school,
Yes.
and my family had just split up, and there was a lot of darkness for me, and it was that tapped in, and I didn't officially fit in with any of the characters,
Right.
but the idea of what they were struggling against and kicking against, I totally got.
Right. And
So-
and it helps you along that road, right? Because I mean, what does the essay at the end say? In the end,
Yeah.
we're all
We are.
a brain,
Yeah. Yeah.
a jock, you know.
And the other thing about it is it what they finally strive for in at Breakfast Club is, and what their deep yearning is to be authentic, and to be authentic and understood for who they are, and have the chance to do that in front of other people. And so it gave me it articulated for me what I actually like. It gave me something to hope for in high school. Like, in other words, like in high school, a lot of times people are just miserable, but they don't know why and what to do about it. Because of a movie like that, I was able to say, I'm miserable, but what I want is authenticity, and what I
Yeah.
want is to be understood for myself and to understand others for themselves. And I was able to say that at least partially just because of that movie, because I saw that and was like, this is all I want, is for the understanding that these people have of each other. And I think a lot of kids don't even have the benefit of having seen that and being given a narrative that gives them a goal to have. Because the goal, I was teaching at a prep school for 2 years, and you know what the goal is? To get into a really good college.
Yes.
That's the goal. To be successful like my parents.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And so this time of year, college acceptances and rejections come back,
Uh-huh.
and it's like their whole lives have built up to this moment.
Absolutely.
You know what I used to say to them, Andy? I used to say, you guys are all excited about going to college. You know it's just more school, right? Like, you're going to get there, and then they're going to be like, here's some more homework. And they're like,
Clearly, sometime in the not distant future, we will have to do a podcast on the Breakfast Club because it is so rich. But I have a question for you that I don't want you to answer now. I want you to. You may have already thought about it.
Strange.
I would be surprised if you hadn't. But I want you to answer it when we do the podcast.
Okay.
One of the most. Hello, Doug.
It's just dogging them.
One of the most poignant scenes in that entire movie is when they're all sitting around and Anthony Michael Hall asks the question.
What are you going to say? Are we all going to talk to each other?
Come Monday, are you going to ignore me? Or are you going to talk to me?
Oh God, I'm going to cry right now.
And yeah, I know. And Molly Ringwald is like, no, I don't think so. So my question is, with the exception of the two couples that seemingly form at the end of that movie, do the couples talk to each other? Does anybody talk to Anthony Michael Hall? I don't know the answer. I don't think there is an answer, but talking about it is what makes that movie brilliant. One of the things that makes that movie brilliant.
I look forward to that conversation.
Right?
I do. I
right?
have an answer. I have an answer, and of course, I've thought about that because we all think about it. But
Indeed. Indeed.
what I love about this podcast that we're going to do when we talk about it is it means I get to watch Breakfast Club again.
Oh, so true. Thanks, Dad. Shall we move on to question number 3?
Yo.
Okay. From frequent contributor to the podcast, Damon. Hello, Damon.
Why are we answering Damon's question, Andy?
Well, Phil, you'll notice, as has become obvious already, I am in my hometown of Houston, Texas. And the reason I am in my hometown of Houston, Texas, is because my childhood friend Damon Tomlin is getting married.
Aww.
And this Saturday, tomorrow, is his engagement party.
Oh,
I could not be more excited.
you're flying out not even for the wedding, but for the engagement party?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I'm also flying out for the wedding, but...
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Well done, you.
Yeah, you know.
That'd be great if you flew out for the engagement party and then didn't show up for the wedding.
Right, no, I'm done.
I came for the party.
Right? To get to the party at the wedding, I gotta sit through that ceremony. No, thank you. Yeah,
Come on,
wrap it up.
Come on. Jew over here, not interested in all this Jesus stuff. Move it along.
Nice. Having said that, the reason we're answering this question is because it's awesome, much like my dad's, right? It's great.
No, listen. To be fair, all of the questions are good. So
Agreed.
Nepotism is not unseemly here. This is work.
Indeed. From Damon. What major character from any genre do you think was the most severely miscast? Follow-up question. What performance do you think was miscast, but has nonetheless garnered, in your opinion, inordinate praise? You want to go, or do you want me to go?
I don't have an answer for the second one. I've tried, and I've.
Okay.
The first one, I've said a couple of these before.
Okay.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine after saying something about how I thought Oz was a fine movie or whatever, and we had a conversation about it. And through the conversation with him, I realized that I actually didn't like James Franco in that movie.
Okay.
And it wasn't because I don't think James Franco is a good actor, because I do think he's a good actor.
Sure.
I think, and my friend swayed me on this, I think he was terribly miscast.
Okay.
And I think, in fact, that Oz, because here's the deal, and I actually thought this while I was watching the movie, but I'd never really, then, for some reason, the jump to this could have been a more successful movie if, never got made until I had the conversation. The thing that I thought was, I don't really buy him for even a second.
Yeah.
And the whole character's thing is that he has to get people to buy into him, for a living.
Right.
But he's so overtly full of it.
Yes.
That there's no charm in it. It's like you're a snake oil salesman to the nth degree, but the kind where you're like, that's snake oil, I ain't buying that. And I think you need to have someone who, even though you're like, this doesn't seem right, you can't help but be pulled in. And I don't think James Franco does that. And I think that I just don't buy it. I don't buy it.
You know,
so
as you are saying this, and as you are saying what that role needs, perhaps Jack Black.
Oh, yeah. Although
right?
Jack Black can also telegraph how fake he's being.
Yes.
Like, you want to almost have someone who... But Jack Black would be fun and charming and goofy. But I think you want to have someone who could be magnetic and you're not... And, I mean, this is look, they're going clearly for a young, hot, romantic lead guy. But, I mean, honestly, Paul Giamatti...
Sure.
I mean... That's a whole different game. I know that.
Yeah.
But you could do it, you know, like or I'd be fascinated to see what Joaquin Phoenix could do with it.
Nice.
Or and I can't even say that name. That you would laugh me out of here. It wouldn't work. I won't say that name. The other one that I would say, and this is the one I've said before, Al Pacino in Heat.
Okay.
And I get why they cast him.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Sure.
I mean, I know he wanted Al Pacino 10 years earlier, but he didn't get him, and that's the problem.
Right.
Maybe 15 years earlier.
Right.
And I'm going to reach back, and I've made fun of this guy before, and you'll probably admit it's going to start to sound like I have an issue with him. Maybe I do. I like some of his movies.
Sure.
But Brad Pitt in Interview with a Vampire. What's really funny is when Interview with a Vampire was being made,
Mm-hmm.
remember they cast Tom Cruise as Lestat
Yeah.
and Brad Pitt as who cares what his name is, main
Whatever.
character.
Yeah.
And the talk when they were making the movie was, "Whoa, that Tom Cruise is a really weird casting decision."
Right. Right.
And it was.
Yes.
But it turns out that Brad Pitt was not the right person for that
Much
role.
weirder.
And
Yes.
Tom Cruise ended up playing a wonderful Lestat.
Agreed. I agree.
So that's a fascinating thing. Anyways, so there you go. Those are my answers. I don't have an answer for the second part, at least not yet.
Okay. I have several.
Good.
But first, my answer to the first part: what major character do you think was the most severely miscast? I don't disagree with anything you've said. I might also add from Oz, Mila Kunis. I thought she was good in parts, but I didn't think she you need someone who can carry off what happens to her at the end of the movie, and I just don't think she did. Having said that, she is so beautiful at the beginning of that movie that I don't think it matters. I mean, let me put it another way.
She really is objectively one of the most beautiful people I've ever witnessed on screen.
Grace Kelly happens to be a good actress, but she didn't have to be.
Yeah,
if that makes sense, right?
It does.
So here's my answer.
Real quick, can I say one last thing really quickly about that?
Yeah.
There is one person in that movie who's cast perfectly, and that person outclasses. And there's other good actors in it, but that one person so far outshines the rest of the actors and is so perfect that this person almost single-handedly uplifts the entire movie and makes it what it should be. Do you know who that is?
Michelle Williams?
Yes.
Yeah.
Michelle Williams' performance in Oz the Great and Powerful, no one will say this. I will be the only one to say this. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Is an Oscar-worthy performance. In a movie that will not be getting any Oscars, but she almost single-handedly makes the movie. You can see through, but it on one hand almost single-handedly brings the whole thing up, but the converse is true instead, which is that she shows you what it could have been, and that's unfortunate.
Indeed.
But I do think you're right. I don't think it's bad actors. They're good actors.
No, yes.
They were not cast properly.
I don't think Rachel Weisz is perfectly cast in that movie either. There's a lot of weird stuff going on with that movie. Anyway,
go ahead,
my answer. This is kind of low-hanging fruit because this is what everybody was saying, but it doesn't make it less true. Vince Vaughn in the Psycho remake.
Oh boy.
The point of Psycho is
Thank you.
Is the point of Psycho, to quote the last line of the movie, you don't think there's any way that Norman Bates could hurt a fly.
He's just this tiny little ineffectual guy.
Yes. I guess technically that last line is said by the mother, but you know what I mean.
No. We're good.
Yeah. Vince Vaughn is huge. He's 6'3", 6'4".
He's towering.
Yes, not slightly built. He's hulking, right?
Oh, yeah.
And just because he's not buff and muscular, he's a solidly built guy. And if you wanted to cast him in a remake, if you wanted to cast him as Lenny in Of Mice and Men, awesome. But no one who can play Lenny in Of Mice and Men should be playing Norman Bates after Anthony Perkins played him to perfection. Period.
I think that's a great call, and what it does. And by the way, the Psycho remake was terrible, but
terrible.
But I will say that Vince Vaughn is terribly miscast, and really, and this sounds like damning with faint praise, but I don't mean it at all that way. I use that term from you because I love you. You're the one who uses that, and I think it's great. But Vince Vaughn does tries his hardest, and that sounds like, oh, bless his soul, but no, he tries to figure out. He finds ways to make him seem weak and feel weak and ineffectual. And it does a good job, except when the time comes for him to be physical, he's too overpowering.
Yes.
And there's something about that final scene in the original Psycho when it doesn't take much to overpower the guy with the knife.
Yes.
Whereas with Vince Vaughn, you literally have to beat the living crap out of him and hope for rain. It's just crazy what you have to do to make it happen.
Yes.
So it's a terrible casting decision. And Vince Vaughn does his absolute best with it and does really interesting stuff with it, but it doesn't work. It is a failure. Well said. Well said.
So the follow-up question: what performance do I think was miscast, but has nonetheless garnered, in my opinion, inordinate praise? I have three names for this. The first two were
Can I say something about this question?
yeah,
This isn't really a territory Andy and I go into very often.
that's true.
Because we're about to say stuff like, this person was no good in this, and they should have gotten less credit than they got.
Right.
We try not to tread that territory, but every once in a while we'll answer a mailbag question. Damon, since you're getting married, we're going to throw you a bone.
Right.
Just wanted to say that. Andy, go ahead.
The first two of these three names were nominated for Oscars for these performances, and the first name won. Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman. And I think that for two reasons. One, it ruined him. It just ruined him, right?
Well, they gave him an award for not acting.
Right. And also, I honestly think another actor could have done the not acting that he did, but also maybe found maybe another actor would have been able to find other layers to him.
Yes.
Because the layers in of that character are yelling, suicidal, and dancing with Gabrielle Noir, and that's it.
Which is a fun scene, by the way.
Right. Yes. Agreed.
Scent of a Woman, by the way, it was on recently, and it's utterly watchable.
Agreed. Yep.
But it's not very good.
No. Next name, Robin Williams in Good Morning Vietnam.
Wow.
I think another actor. You have said on this podcast, Phil. You have said that whenever anyone says like how great Good Morning Vietnam is, what they mean is how great the first half of it is.
Yeah.
Right?
The part when he's yelling in which if you really like that, just buy the soundtrack.
Totally. I think another actor could have gotten close to the heights he hits in that part, and it is totally clear at that point in his career he is not comfortable with the more dramatic things that come later, and they come off kind of as silly. So I think I mean, obviously that movie doesn't get made without Robin Williams in the pitch, right? But
Interesting.
I just think another actor would have been a better idea. And lastly,
I think the whole thing with that, Andy, is that I'm not sure I agree with you on the dramatic side. I'm not sure I agree with you that he wasn't ready. But I'm not sure I agree with that. But I will say this. I think that he was so Robin Williams-y in the Adrian Cronauer in the DJ scenes,
right,
that we just felt like we were watching Robin Williams. And so then when he calms down, it doesn't seem like the same character. Do you see what I mean? Like it's just so. All he does when he's doing this radio scenes is just be Robin Williams.
When I said what I said, I think I might have meant what you just said. I'm not sure we're saying something that's all that different. Actually.
Sure. I'm just kind of like delineating, but yeah.
But interesting. Since you said that, my third name, and I think you might get angry with me about this.
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey in The Truman Show. Something about his performance. Ladies and gentlemen who are just listening to this podcast, Phil has just left. He has left. Auditioning new co-hosts. Okay, hang on.
Okay.
Give me a minute.
Okay.
Let me make my case. Okay.
I'm not mad, but before you say anything, you are gonna have to pull something amazing out of a hat right now, because that is one of my favorite performances of the last 20 years. So go ahead.
Wow. Okay. Go
ahead.
Well, it's not going to be amazing enough to combat
but
one
at least
of your
it might
favorite
make
performances in the last 20 years. But here's the deal.
Try to ruin my
For me, and again, in your opinion, is one of the phrases in this question.
Well, remember, he didn't even get nominated for this, so
right. Something about his performance rings hollow, and it reminded me of the latter scenes in Good Morning Vietnam, except for the parts where he is oversized, outsized. Either he's being wacky, like when he's getting the rain to chase him around, or when he's being buffeted by the wind on the boat at the end of the movie. Those moments, to me, I felt like I was watching him throw off the shackles, right? He's like, now I can do what I do. And he was not bad. I don't mean to say that he was bad.
Sure.
but I think if the Truman Show had the Jim Carrey from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, it would probably be in my top 10 movies of all time. And yeah,
When was the last
it's
time
not
you
in my
watched it?
top. I don't know.
When was the last time you watched it? I'm not to just like puncture it
No,
that
no.
way, but I am curious.
2-3 years.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I don't know what to say. I think I actually really like. I just love his performance. I think it's a really good performance, and I think it played with our perception of what Jim Carrey was at that time in a way that I thought was really interesting. And a lot of my favorite moments are. I mean, I like the moments you're talking about, but a lot of my favorite moments are actually like the tender moments or the moments when he's realizing something is going on, and you see so much in his eyes. Um, I don't know. I think he pulls off this goofy charm that works really well, and it was the first time you saw his goofy charm not be um, like there's something dark and strange about his goofy charm in Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber, and the ones that he became famous for. There's like this weird undercurrent, and with Truman Show, he just goes plays it straight. But you're saying that actually kind of shackles him. So okay. I mean, obviously you're saying that's the whole point of this question is people agree to disagree. Um, I kind of want to watch the Truman Show now while cursing at you, but that's okay. That's
That's
okay.
fair. Ladies and gentlemen, those are our 3 questions for the mailbag, but we have a bonus question, an update to a previous question. I
Right.
can't remember who asked this. Was it Keith? Was it our director?
I don't know.
Uh, Weeks ago. Maybe long.
Months ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe long enough to
Months.
qualify as months ago. We were asked, do impressions of your favorite movie lines, and both of us are not really impressionists. Like we don't.
No,
That's not. We don't.
no,
We
not
don't.
good at that. No.
Yeah, we're not good at it at all. Kevin Spacey, we are not.
Ooh.
On any one of several levels, really. But both of us have come up with another character that we're actually pretty good at impersonating. Phil, please, why don't you go?
Okay, so for the record, by the way, we were just talking off screen the other day, and I did this voice as a joke, and then Andy was like, "You need to do that on the show," and I was like, "I don't." So I'm not psyched about this, and I'm probably not going to do it right now that it's on. But let me just say this: my favorite. I was saying to Andy, my favorite film act, and I'm not good at this. This is like it's more of like Anthony Hopkins doing Richard Nixon. You know what I mean? It's an impression of an impression. It's a feeling. But I was saying to Andy, my favorite accent of all time in any film was Peter McNichols as Janosch in Ghostbusters 2. And he goes, what does he goes? Dana, aren't you going to introduce me to your friends? And then my favorite line of all time. They shoot this slime all over me. And he goes, "Why am I dripping this goo?" Which I love. And then guys, and and then he's like, "Why am I dripping this goo?" And then he is Vigo. You are but the buzzing of flies to him. And then at the very end, when he gets up and he's got the goo on him and it's all positively charged, he's with Dan Aykroyd, and he's like, Dan Aykroyd's like, "Hey, I love you," and he's like, "Yeah, well, I love you too." Everything he says blows my mind. You know? No,
Awesome.
no, it's time to leave. It's for leaving now. It's you go. That's all I got.
Nice. And mine is from the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, when
Oh, I
they
love
are
it. So you're so good at this.
when they are concocting the ruse to get Mia Sara, the girlfriend, out
You don't need to say this.
of school.
You don't even need to set it up, Andy. Everybody who knows anything about movies knows what you're about to do. It's
Here's
so
the
good.
problem. My favorite parts of this I cannot say because we are a family podcast.
It's true.
So, if you Phil, if you could set me up by saying, I think I owe you an apology.
Sir, I think I owe you an apology.
Well, I should say you do. I think you should be sorry. For Christ's sake, a family member dies and you insult me? What the
Uh,
hell is the
uh,
matter with you anyway?
Sir, I know, I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry.
Pardon my French, Rooney, and I will not finish that line. But
You can say a-hole. You can say a-hole.
pardon my French, Rooney, but you're an a-hole. Huh? So there you
So
go.
good at that voice. I like when he does that thing.
Right.
I
Rooney.
like. I like in that whole thing while he's doing the impression of Peterson, Sergeant Peterson, and what's her face, Edie. Edie is doing the impression of Rooney.
Oh, oh.
And then he comes back and picks up the phone and is going, oh. Oh man, that's one of the best. Well
Often
done.
on this show, we end our podcast when we hit something that we cannot top, and I cannot top Cameron, and Phil probably cannot top Janusz. So,
I don't think I even bottomed Janos, but I hope to top it someday. But no, not
nice,
tonight.
nice. For now, we will say goodbye. Have a lovely weekend, everybody.
Yes.
This has been another week of Second Breakfast Podcast. I'm Andy Roth, and that's Phil Duvall. We'll see you again next week. Bye bye.
Bye now.